Yes.
How you doing? Done. We'll call the November the 3rd Lincolnton City Council meeting to order. We can pause for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you've all had a chance to look at the agendas. I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda as submitted. Motion by Christine. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. You've had a chance to look at the couple of items on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Motion by Mary Frances. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now we have a public comment section. And for those of you that weren't here last time, we've changed the order so that you do get a chance to to give public input. Did anybody sign up for that?
Okay.
We'll move on to the public hearing, and I'll open up the public hearing. This is public hearing CZ-9-2022. It's Edgewater Ventures. And I'll turn it over to Jean.
Good evening. How are y'all tonight? Okay, so this one may sound familiar. It had come before you in June of 2022 and was denied. Our ordinance states that if a conditional rezoning is denied, that it cannot, the same application cannot come back to council for a year. And so what they've done, the city attorney has looked at this project. They've made some substantial changes to it, and he decided it was enough that they could bring it back to council. So they're requesting rezoning of this 30 acres from planned business to GMC. So this is an aerial of the property. It's 232 Carr Farm Road at the intersection of Carr Farm and Maiden Highway. This is a comparison of the previous plan with the current plan. The previous building was 352,500 square feet. The new proposed building is 270,000 feet, so they've decreased that by over 80,000 square feet. The building size went from 470 feet by 750 feet to 360 feet by 750. The car parking has changed. It's increased, and when we look at the site plan, I'll show you part of why. But for car parking, it increased from 109 spaces to 285 spaces. The trailer parking decreased from 102 spaces to 88. Instead of having 100 dock doors, this building will only have 50, and they've moved all of the dock doors to the rear of the facility, so there will not be any on the front. They've increased their front setback and their side setback from 20 feet to 50 feet. They're adding additional landscaping. They've added a sidewalk. They've added no right turn for trucks. And with these type of design changes that they've made, it's more likely to be a manufacturing facility than a distribution, so that would hopefully be less truck traffic. So this is the actual site plan, and you can see these are all, the front spaces are now all cars. The doors will be on the rear of the building. The spaces, these longer spaces, are the tractor trailer parking. There are 2 entrances off of Carr Farm Road, but there will be no right turns for trucks posted at both of those entrances and exits. And it just shows the additional landscaping and the sidewalk that they've added. Site from the road. We always talk about land use plan when we talk about these projects, and this site's a little bit different for us because it's annexed into the city and then surrounded by county land. So on this project, while it's not exactly consistent with our land use plan for planned business, the project that they want to do, it is reasonable. Let me skip, sorry. The staff does feel like it would be a reasonable use to rezone it to GMC for light industrial. The county's land use plan, if you look at this right here, this orange section, the gray stripes right here, the very light gray, tiny, that's the actual property. This orange section adjacent to it is zoned suburban commercial, and then the gray section surrounding that is all industrial center. So this project would be in line with the county's land use plan as well. This is a conditional zoning, so if you do choose to approve this project, they can't make any substantial changes to the site plan without coming back to council. The staff review committee in your packet, there are many comments that they had, our standard fire comments where they have to follow Appendix D, fully alarmed, fully sprinkled per fire code. There's a code about where the hydrants need to be located and water studies. So they would need to meet the fire department comments, NCDOT comments, which does require a traffic signal for that intersection at Carr Farm and Maiden Highway. They would need to comply with all the utility comments, the planning department comments, and the natural resource comments. When this case went to planning board, it was approved unanimously, and staff and planning board both recommend the following actions. We request that you approve the rezoning from planned business to GMC conditional district, subject to the staff review committee comments being made conditions of approval. We recommend that we change the land use designation from planned business to industrial, approve the consistency statement, and the rezoning would be effective once the zoning administrator received a written agreement from the applicant saying that they would abide by the conditions of approval. The applicant is here and has a presentation, but do you have any questions for me before they do that?
When they speak of landscaping, I mean, is that gonna be a tree, or is it gonna be, what?
Well,
I'd like to know
it's just
exactly what it's gonna be.
It is trees, and it's showed on the plan. It's trees. It just helps with the buffer and the noise, and it just makes it look more attractive. But most of the noise, they've moved all the trucks will be on the rear of the building. It will just be employee parking in the front.
Are these gonna be tractor trailer trucks, 60-foot trucks, or box trucks?
Tractor trailer,
Box trucks.
tractor trailer trucks.
60-foot tractor trailer truck.
Presumably, they have to get a business in there first, but presumably the tractor trailer trucks.
The only thing I see, if you put another stoplight out there, you put two tractor trailers going out the same time, and one gets caught at the first light, the second one can get through but can't go any further because the first one stopped. Where's the traffic gonna go? They're gonna be backed up, aren't they?
Right. Well, DOT would look at that, and they're going to try and synchronize those lights to make the traffic flow.
Okay, if the owner
The applicant.
has a break, yes. If you, for the record, please state your name and.
Sure. Brian Beaver. I'm Director of Construction for Edgewater Ventures. Gene did a great job kind of explaining the changes from our original plan to now. Just to touch on those a little bit, as she mentioned, we're going to have a landscaping buffer that should work to prevent a lot of the noise from the facility. Docks are all shifted to the back, so any backup and lighting from the trucks will be shielded from the road and any residents by the building itself. 70,000 plus square footage reduction should also, in addition to just being smaller and less truck traffic, that building size and orientation would lend itself more to a manufacturing type use as opposed to distribution, which generally will result in a higher employee count and tax basis as well. So overall, the shift from distribution to manufacturing is typically looked at favorably from an employment perspective. Yeah, I know you guys are very familiar with the project, and we've talked to, been through community meetings and PC meetings, and so just wanted to come up here and introduce myself and answer any questions that you may have for us.
Any questions of Mr. Beaver?
Well, I wondered about the increased number of cars, but that reflects an increased number of employees since you've moved from distribution to maybe manufacturing. Is that correct?
That's right. So the original plan had docks on both sides of the building. Mm-hmm. So the majority of those car parking spots were all truck trailer spots. Mm-hmm. So those have been eliminated, and then now we have additional room for vehicular parking for employees.
One of the concerns raised by the residents in the area last time was about the constant beep, 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 backup horns with all those bays and everything. So all of that's going to be next to 321 now, is that
That's
correct?
Yeah. All the truck traffic will be shifted down to the rear of the site. And the building itself has been shifted back from the road from the previous plan. So the intent would be that all noise associated with the trucks, once they're in the facility, will be in the rear of the site.
If this is approved, do you have a date that you're going to start?
Our original plan was to start in the spring. That's probably going to shift due to just how long it's taken us to get through this process. We still have to go through a full design and permitting process, obviously, so that'll probably push to probably conservatively the fall.
Has the DOT given you a date when they will have the intersection ready?
So we'll be responsible for doing that. We won't be able to have. It's our understanding we won't be able to get an occupancy permit without having that traffic light installed. So we've run a traffic study through a consultant who's collaborated with the DOT. That intersection is currently an F, and I think everyone that is familiar with the area would understand why. Our traffic signal, once we install that, it's projected to bring that up to a C, so a substantial increase in the grading, DOT grading on that. So we'll be responsible for doing that, and we'll pay for that.
One of the other issues brought up by the residents in the area was the number of trucks that are already on that road taking a shortcut from 150 getting over to 321. So these right-hand turn these return restrictions, that farms everything to 321, not back up toward 150.
That's right. Yeah, that was actually news to us as we got into the process and met with the neighbors, that it was always our inclination that folks would want to turn left and get on a 321 as quick as possible. We've since heard that trucks do come down that road, and so we don't want to add to that as much as we can. And so our intent is to have signage, and then even up to, if we feel like it's necessary, some sort of like traffic detail that makes it more difficult for trucks to turn right. But as far as this zoning process, we have just a no right truck turn signage.
Shame you can't do something to keep the existing trucks from continuing to come through there.
Well, we actually asked, it's a secondary road, and unless it's a central business district, they pretty much cannot ban an 8-wheeler from going through there. Because I said the same thing, if we could eliminate them from Shuford Road, that would eliminate the crossover,
Mhm.
but they said they couldn't do that, or that they wouldn't do it. So.
Yeah. And finally, I guess this is either for city manager or for Gina, I'm not sure which, but I had two more questions. One, I was reading in the material, one thing that concerned me a little bit, it has nothing to do with your project, it has to do with that pump station at Combine Academy.
Combine Academy, yeah.
Are we gonna be dependent on that pump station to handle any sewer for this facility? I know.
There's been conversations about joining their line with that, if that would be the case, and the city would take it over. If not, then the possibility of possibly going into the force main, which is on DOT right away. But that was the original conversation.
Okay, and then finally, I always like to look after our taxpayers' interests. What kind of tax revenue would this facility generate just on the?
And I did the other one based off the 350,000 square feet, but it's going to be somewhere annually. You have to realize it's just
Sure, I understand.
property tax.
Mhm.
We're not talking about machinery and everything
Right.
else that goes along with it, or the economics of jobs, but just the property tax. It's going to be somewhere between $100,000 and $120,000
Per year,
per year.
and that we've already got sewer out there in their own county waters.
They're on county water, and we would have to connect the sewer, yes.
Okay, but it's in
as
close
far as,
proximity.
tax-based services, industrial is totally different than anything else, because you're not really providing services like you would a neighborhood or a strip mall or your central business district.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at it from the way I'm looking at it, with the sign Edgewater is to the right,
Mhm.
are those single-family property there? Is that all single-family?
To the right is Combine Academy. I think it's just like a prep school.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that you have a nice sized buffer on the other side, and why did you not put one on that side?
I don't know if our civil team. Brian is our civil engineer. If y'all don't, is it appropriate for him to come up and?
Sure.
Good evening. I'm Brian Linton, civil engineer on this project. So the question about the buffers, the reason we're showing it on the north side is because that is single family zoning up there in the county, and we're buffering against residential. The Combine is not zoned residential, so we didn't buffer against it. And that's just following the ordinance with the city.
I just think, especially with what is there now, that there should be buffering on this side also.
On the Combine side? Okay. We'd have to take a look at that. I'm not prepared, obviously, to give an answer on that right now, but there's been ongoing conversations with Combine on a number of different things, so I'm sure that'll be one of the items that we cover with them as well.
Yeah, and when we get into the zoning, or the grading and design part of the site, we can look at existing vegetation along there and preserve, as much as we can. So,
yeah, and we're obviously want to be good neighbors to Combine as well, and so we'll do anything we can to make sure that within reason that is a good relationship. Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Cliff Brumfield. Good evening. So we've talked about the tax impact and implications of this. I asked if I had provided a graphic that could be pulled up. Cliff Brumfield, Lincoln Economic Development, 502 East Main Street. So I can hand that out. Okay, oh, they got it. Okay. So LEDA has a license for an economic research tool called M-Plan, and in the industry of economic development, M-Plan is the gold standard of doing economic impact analysis for major projects. So with our license, I did some exercises this morning. You see those before you. So you can have proven economic data to look at what just not from a tax standpoint, since we've discussed that, but a job standpoint, a human interest standpoint, what that can mean for the city and our community. I've run 3 models based on conservative estimates of the types of industries that would typically be in a facility like this. And each of these are industries that exist in our community and that have been in a growth mode within recent years. The first I ran was the industry type non-wovens. And we're going to compare each of these 3 to our county average wage, according to NC Commerce, in Lincoln County is $45,000 and $11 per year. Non-wovens, in a space this size, granted you've seen 260 plus parking spaces, but being conservative, just 130 employees would generate an average wage, average across the board for that, based on M-Plan's data on our local workforce, right at $61,000 per year plus benefits. I read another one on plastics, similar to what Aptar does in our business park at LCIP, based on 185 employees of this type project. This is another one, not only is in our community, but we've seen one of these recently looking around the Charlotte vicinity. At 185 employees, a little higher wages, right at $65,000 per year. And then I ran machine tool accessories, which we have several of those in our community, at 165 employees, still much smaller than this facility would allow, at right over $65,000 per year in an economic opportunity or income to an individual that would be there. You hear a lot in the news lately about the United States and our gross domestic product. What are we producing? What's the ultimate being manufactured in our world and in our country? If you look at the output on the far right, that's the contribution that this facility could make to those numbers, being right at $59 million for non-wovens, $56 million in plastics, and machine tool accessories at $45 million. Oftentimes when you look at, if we're going to come make a recommendation on an industrial facility that's not in an industrial park, and it's true there's not a space available in the LCIP right now that can build, that this type of facility can be built, but you're often forced to make a decision of economic opportunity versus traffic. One generally causes the other, and if you want to focus on not having traffic, you're going to have less economic opportunities. The good thing here is the improvements that they are willing to make at that intersection are going to, as you've heard, increase the level of service from an F, a failure, to a C. So with that, I do offer this M-Plan is the formula that we use. This is not an endorsement by M-Plan. I put their name on that in the logo just to show you that we did use a reputable source to come to these numbers. Excuse me. Yes, sir.
If they don't come, the improvements are not made on the road.
That's correct. If they do not come, that level of service at that intersection will remain an F. And no matter what comes in the Lincoln County Industrial Park, again, almost out of space there, if one or two industries each added those same counts of jobs I showed you, that intersection would not be taken consideration for any impact that they would, any improvement they'd have to make due to that impact.
You do this for a living. How many other sites in Lincolnton city limits are available for this kind of industrial expansion?
The only other one available is off Roper Drive. It would not accommodate this building as it's laid out and would not take this big of an economic impact of potential machinery and equipment investment.
So this might be it?
Yes. Unless we'd had some major redevelopment or something else closing and changing, but for the foreseen future, this is it.
I can understand how it's going to have an impact on our city revenue, but what kind of impact is it going to have on the residents that's got established residency there for all these years?
Well, Well, if they were all in the city limits, it'd have an impact on the bottom line for their cost of essential services. It'll also, in fact, of course, offset for cost of essential services on your county taxation. But as far as seeing it and knowing it's there, I understand the concern, I do. But 321 was 4-lane years ago and improved, and that traffic is going to continue to grow as Charlotte continues to grow by 130 plus people in the Charlotte region per day. That growth is coming. The Lincoln County Industrial Park, those employees, those industries that can grow will continue to. I can't say it's going to make their lives quieter, make their yards greener or anything like that, because there's no way that anything going there could. But what it could do better is keep a louder, invasive location from coming there. That's going to be a commercial property. Its highest and best use is going to be commercial because of where it is with its connectivity and how it's viewed from the interstate. Can you imagine what a Buc-ee's would do? It look real good right there. Now, we're not a candidate yet for a Buc-ee's, but something like that, a truck stop, something with lights on 24/7. There was a commerce center. Some type of commerce center is going to be the best use for that lot. And with the price of it, it makes it strictly prohibitive for residential. It's simply because of the growth and the evolution of the area and what it is because of where it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cliff.
Trent Mason.
Good evening, City Council. I am Trent Mason, 207 Mockingbird Lane. I am also your chair for planning board for the city and a plant manager here in the city for over 10 years. For over 10 years, I was in that industrial park. I dealt with that traffic. I know how terrible it is. At the same time, a light would do amazing things there. To have that intersection improved to the way DOT is talking, you're actually talking about now people not being late to work, getting written up by their employers. You talk about it actually helps a far greater part of this community, people who have jobs, because people now, it's probably about 15 minutes to get from off 321 to their facilities. And I mean, it's a nightmare. A lot of it's just due to everybody stopping at Shell Station. If you've been there, have some good breakfast. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I love something by there. Or I used to. I go to the one down to the library now. But other than that, I do speak as a plant manager that is now at Actiga. We are growing. We are trying to invest money into the city and into this county. And right now, there are no facilities. I would do anything. If that thing was built today, we would already signed a lease or try to buy it from them. I've got $10 million plus to do this, but nowhere to go. We did a great job thing by the planning board and also the city council by approving homes. Let's give people jobs to go to inside the city. That's all I have. Thank y'all.
How did the planning board vote?
Unanimously. After much discussion between me and Gene, that's where, a lot of it back and forth was. To the same concerns that everybody has here of how's it going to affect the residents who live over there. Because they've been there first and foremost. And as Cliff pointed out, we are growing and people need jobs to live in this area, and there's people who want to move here and to for their work. I mean, we want to see the facilities. We need that. We're one of those right now, and I don't want to see us lose other companies because there's not a place for them to go to. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Trent.
Yes, sir.
Pat Stoller?
Good evening. My name is Pat Stoliker. I live at 346 Car Farm Road. I spoke the last time at this meeting, and I still have all the same concerns that I had originally. The traffic, as you all know, is horrific on that road. They're not really going to do anything but stick a regular traffic light on Car Farm in 321. The people, venture capitalists, told me that right out after the zoning board. There's no plan to have DOT come in there and look and see what that intersection can handle. I feel sorry for the people that live on that corner. Someday one of those tractor trailers is gonna go right through their house. It's just not a good place to put a manufacturing company in a residential area like that. With the traffic that we're getting now, day after day, it's just unbelievable. The state has no plans on fixing that road. That road is a mess. They get more tractor trailers on there, it's gonna turn into a dirt road. I'm sorry, I moved there because it was a beautiful residential area, and now it's turning into an industrial area. And it's not fair to any of the residents that live on Carr Farm, Shuford, Buffalo Shoals. It's not fair. Revenue, yeah. I mean, you're talking 135 people maybe get jobs there. That's gonna be how many more vehicles on that road on a day-to-day basis? That area between where this traffic light is gonna be and where this industrial thing is gonna happen, there's not enough room for anybody to turn around. And oh, by the way, who's going to enforce no right-hand turns down Carr Farm and Shuford Road? Who's going to? Are you going to have a state trooper? We can't even get a state trooper to come over there and watch the way the tractor trailers and trucks speed down that road now. It's ridiculous. And I do not want to see this place built, revenue or not. Thank you.
Burton Leonard.
Can you pop up the map of the site? This or bigger?
I got you.
The bigger
Will
one.
you switch it back to electric? Oh, it is, okay.
Okay,
There
get
you
the
go.
bigger one. Whatever.
Hang on. Like that? Does that make
Yeah, that was right there. I can see that.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. This area over here, they keep saying that you can't do it on I-40 in Morganton from 96 exit to 102. They got to here, they got the land that runs back and forth here. It goes right next to 321, the off-ramp. 102, 96 and all that, they got an industrial plant right there beside, and they're using the ramp, the in and out. That would cut off the Carr Farm Road, they're in and out over there. They said DOT told me they couldn't do that. Okay, y'all asked them about that. The stoplight, they just gonna put a stoplight, they said. They wasn't gonna work on the road, they need to widen that. If we're gonna do that, the fire department, are they gonna be able to get out? If somebody has some problem on Carr Farm Road, is that gonna slow them down where they can't get out? Hey, I was a fireman for 31 years there. I used to have to run out there and run across the road because I couldn't drive, couldn't get out. And me and Belton. And is that going to slow emergency vehicles down to get out Carr Farm Road or anything? That's what I want to know. That I've asked them if they are going to do this, let's do it right. Let's make a berm in the front there or something for visual and sound. It would stop visual and sound. I live right across Burton Leonard, 167 Carr Farm Road. I live across the entrance closest to 321, and that's going to take up my whole front yard and my driveway, their entrance. Them coming in and out, are the trucks going to come over into my yard and my driveway? I'd like to know that. The spring down there, they said they've moved it back, made it the wetlands and stuff better. Them building that building there, since it's on the spring, I'm on a well, wonderful water. Is that going to interfere with that? If it does, are they going to pay for me to get on county water? I don't know. I've lived there all my life. The land that it's going on was my family's land, all the way on the other side of 321, all the way the other way to the industrial park. I live there. I don't want it there, but if it is, I want it done right. That's all I got to say.
No one else, sir.
Okay. Since there's no one else to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Mary Francis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now I'll entertain a motion to either approve or deny the request.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve it, but I would like to say to you, after, if in fact it is approved, I would like to see you be a good neighbor and put another buffer on the, as much as on the other side on this project. So my motion is to approve.
Motion to approve.
We can't have a discussion now. We can.
We can as soon as okay. We've got a motion to approve. Any discussion? Now.
I'd just like to say, why can't this council wait till we see what happens with the state? Till we get some plans from the state to see what that intersection is going to be. Because like he said, a light is going to do nothing. In fact, it'll cause more congestion than the one that's up. I mean, I'd like to make, well, I can't make a motion, but I'd just like to say, why can't the council wait until we get some kind of report from the state of North Carolina on what they're going to do to the intersection? I think that'd make everybody happy.
Okay. Any other discussion?
The gentleman spoke about fire truck access. Chief Evans back there, I'm just wondering if he heard that, if they had any reaction. Has the fire department looked at the plans?
I'm not sure if the North Richmond Fire Department has or not, but I mean, it's an issue now for them.
Okay.
I think they know that they need to relocate.
They can't get out.
Equitable in the future, they're gonna have to move their facility as well.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Can we respond back or?
Okay. Motion has been made to approve. I'll entertain that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Let the record show that 2 for, 2 against. It was Roby and Mary Frances against. And I will vote for. Okay, next item on the agenda is proposed targeted incentive grant for breweries and distilleries. And I'll turn it over to Jean.
Incentive grant is going to be similar to our restaurant incentive grant that y'all approved last year, I believe. It is targeted for breweries and distilleries, and one thing that's different that we're going to do, our past incentive grants have been concentrated in the downtown location. Most of those buildings are full, which is a great thing, thanks to y'all. So this would actually be the city of Lincolnton electric service area. If somebody came in, a brewery or distillery, found a building that was in our electric service area, that they wanted to go into, they would be covered on this. It does have to be a building owner that applies for the grant. You don't have to run the business, but you do have to be the building owner to apply for it. The proposed grant program would not have to be repaid unless the recipient does not remain in that location for a minimum of 5 years. The proposed program has a maximum funding of $50,000 per eligible brewery or distillery. It would require a minimum investment by the applicant of $150,000 in eligible expenditures. It would require them to create and maintain a minimum of 2 full-time jobs for at least 5 years. All the funding would have to be paid back to the city in the event that the applicant sells the building or the business they go out of business within 5 years. And I said it before, but the grant is limited to building owners, and it would require a lien to be placed on the building to protect the city's investment. It would cover such repairs necessary, like window replacement, repairs to the facade or to the roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical systems. If there were any like structural issues with the building, it would cover that. Doors, repairs or replacement. Utility upgrades, restrooms, fire suppression, ADA accessibility. It would not cover non-fixed items, they couldn't get their inventory or carpet or paint. It doesn't cover any of that. It doesn't cover signage. Ineligible properties would include if you were tax delinquent, you're not in good standing with your utility billing, or you have any outstanding liens on your property. There is, for this grant, there's there's a path for new breweries or distilleries, or our existing brewery could apply for an expansion. Like if Brick Tree said, we want rooftop or rooftop seating, they could do that. They would cover something like that. And I don't know if y'all have looked at this, but breweries and distilleries bring so many people for day trips. Like there are tours, like people go on brewery tours or distillery tours. It brings a lot of tourism to the area, so it would be a good program to have those. It would fill vacant buildings. It would bring new people to Lincolnton.
I was just hoping you were going to say that you had somebody interested.
Not yet, but we will. We will.
Well, you
Anybody
know,
have any questions?
I've had several people tell me that they came to Lincolnton to visit Brick Tree because they saw our city emblem on the beer cans at Food Line in Salisbury.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
That makes you feel good. Any questions?
Questions of Jerry? If not, I'll entertain a motion to either approve or deny the targeted incentive grant for breweries and distilleries. Motion by Mary Frances to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gene. And you're still up again. Targeted incentive grants for event spaces.
And this one is very similar. Most of the wording is the same when it comes to the dollar amounts, the fact that it has to be inside the city's electric service area. We did add a stipulation that it had to accommodate a minimum of 50 guests for an event space. We like the idea of doing this because event spaces, same thing. It would fill our buildings, it would create jobs, and not only does it bring people for the day, but if it's a wedding, they'll stay for the whole weekend. It puts people in our hotels. People are spending their money.
Yeah, need some more hotels.
So there's not much. Most of the wording is similar in this, and I can go through it if you want, but the eligible expenditures are the same, the ineligible properties are the same. You have to have the building owner.
Questions of Gene? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Marty. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
And now we've got Chris coming up, and this stuff I actually understood part of it. So you're getting better all along. Chris, it's all yours.
Okay, Council, I bring in front of you a way of how I'm asking for permission to change how we sell stuff on GovDeals with our older tech. And I want to move to recycling with Powerhouse Recycling. It'd take a lot of manpower out of what we do for GovDeals. We have to prep the stuff, remove disk, prep it for public sale, and then we have to palletize it, take pictures, and then sell it. And of course, that doesn't really get that much money in the end. I think the total that we pulled up was $5,000 for the last 15 years. So we really don't make that much money off of it. So I'm looking to maybe make a little more money off of recycling and take a lot of manpower out of it.
If it means more money in our coffers, sounds good, Chris. Any questions of Chris?
Yeah, what size font was this chart in? My glasses and my magnifying glass, I'm still working on it.
You guys do not like IT, like you love IT, but you don't want to see IT, so I tried to make it one page for you. I could have made it multiple pages, but I kept it one, just to keep it simple.
So. Chris, I'm not the only one that gives you a hard time.
I apologize for the font, but that is $5,000 worth for the last 15 years.
All right.
Cut to the chase. Bottom line. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve Chris's proposal.
So moved.
Motion by Roby. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chris. Okay, next item is request to add a planning technician position, and I'll turn it over to Tanya.
I've included in your packet information regarding the planning department. After the retirement of our former planning director and then Jean becoming our planning director, there was much discussion as what does the planning department need to look like for the future. You know, we currently have 2 part-time employees in that department who are excellent in what they do, but they're not going to stay with us a whole lot many more years. So we need to position the department for the future. So in discussions with Jean and the city manager Richie, it was decided that the position that was formerly an administrative type position needed to be at a higher level, which is what this planning technician is. For us to recruit for it, it needed to be on our salary schedule position classification, because that is approved by council annually on the basis or as we need it due to reorganizations. So that's what we're asking for this evening, is that we would basically reclassify the planning assistant that was in that department to a planning technician. It would not increase the number of your full-time budgeted positions, and the budget that we are currently working within, we should be able to stay within, because of course we've had a vacancy in that department for several months now. So I'm just asking for approval of the changes to the position classification so we can begin recruitment and help Jean out. She is swamped.
Any questions?
And I just want to make sure I understand. Are we talking about upgrading an existing position using the salary we saved from vacancy, or are we talking about filling that position?
We're removing, on the chart I sent you, we're removing the planning assistant and replacing it with that planning technician, which is a grade higher. From the salary that would have been paid if we were fully staffed, that's why we could cover that with what's left in our budgeted year currently. This position, though, is also in Group C, which is the pay study. We have already done research with our consultant that we use for the pay study to determine where it belonged in placement on our salary schedule.
But we will be reclassifying the position of existing. So tomorrow there'll be the same number of positions as there are today. So we're not providing a whole lot of manpower help. We're just recognizing the kind of labor and the responsibility of the position.
Right. Because
Okay.
the planning department's currently got 2 full-time positions and 2 part-time.
Okay.
So right now it's running on 1 full-time and the 2 part-time who are doing a great job helping out.
Okay.
But we're
I
not
just
going to
wanna make sure
change the structure of the department except
I'm good with it. I
reclass
just want
one
to make sure.
position.
I've often thought we needed more bodies in that department anyhow, but I thought maybe that's where we were headed, but no, I'm good with this.
Well, and some of
right
it's
now.
succession planning too, because we realized that the zone administrator, which is part-time, at one time was a full-time position, and that person may not be here in 4 or 5 years, so this person could train under them and be ready to fill that position. So it's definitely looking at the future, but I agree with Tanya, we have been swamped. As y'all know, you know, we used to do 4 or 5 residential permits a year, now we're doing 40 to 50 a year. We've definitely seen the growth.
Well, plus we ramped up enforcement of our ordinances.
Yeah.
And if we want our town to look good, we got to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that if one of the part-time positions, if this person would train under that person, then whenever that person retires, we would look at bringing on 3 full-time positions.
In the job spec for this planning technician, of course, we're looking for the certifications or the ability to obtain them within a time frame, so that yes, when we have that potential part-time vacancies, that they'll in-house already will have a full-time that is going to be able to assume those duties.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation. Motion by Christine. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Daphne, about the Lincolnton. This was discussed at the last city council. This makes it more formal and gives you a chance to vote on it.
So at the request of the council last month, just the little language was added that anyone that is placed on the Student Advisory Council effective January 1 of 2023 would need to be a Lincoln County resident. And so it has been added to the bylaws, so I just need the bylaws to be approved by the council as presented.
Okay. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the change to the bylaws. Motion by Roby. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And Daphne, while you're up there, let's talk about appointments for the boards and commissions.
In December, several of your appointees will have fulfilled their appointments. We have some that can be reappointed, but you do have 5 that are going to need to be new appointments. So just wanted to make you aware that applications will be received during the month of November, and at the next month's meeting, I will present those, and you will have to appoint people to fill those positions. So you have 1 for the Housing Department Authority, 1 for Historic Properties. 2 actually are fulfilling their appointments on the Planning Board, but we have recently received someone has resigned. So that makes the 3 vacancies on the Planning Board.
That's what I was going to ask, is whenever I was looking over it, I could only get 2.
Several of the ones that are up for reappointment actually are fulfilling unfulfilled terms, so they can be reappointed for a first term. So,
and those will be advertised this month?
Advertised during the month of November, and so at the December meeting, the appointments would need to be made by council.
Okay.
So no actions.
Thank
No
you.
actions needed right now.
Thank you for keeping us up to date. Okay, next item, if it's agreeable with the council, it was to approve the amendment for the Code of Ordinance adding Water Street to the parking lot regulations. Would like to table that for the time being. There has been some discussions with the church, and we want to make sure that everything's worked out with them, with the manual. So if it's agreeable, we're going to table that one. Next item on the agenda is the manager's report. And while Richie is coming up there, got some good news today. Queen City News is going to do broadcast from downtown next Wednesday afternoon. The show starts at 5, but they predict that they'll be on the air about 5:35. But they're going to be down there. I told her that I would announce it this afternoon at the council meeting, but to let you know. So any of you that want to come, and they're promoting the downtown. They've got a couple stories already, and I mentioned one other one.
They're really good stories too.
Yeah. They come downtown. It's basically an overview of the downtown, but they're going to focus on city lunch. They're going to do a story on Kojak, and I mentioned the cooperation, the partnership between the city and restaurant downtown. I'll be talking to the actual reporter Monday to work out the final details. So if you can think of any other stories.
And that's when, Chief, when did you say?
Next Wednesday.
Next 5?
The show starts at 5, but probably won't be on the air until 5:35 or somewhere. She couldn't give me a specific time, but close to that. Okay, Richie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd start off with just some dates for November. Just a reminder, tomorrow is First Friday Recycling. And also, got to put it out tonight. And I have something good to report on that. We were doing some training yesterday and pulled up the spreadsheet with recycling, and we have almost 1,500 recycling cans out. So our program is actually larger than our old program.
Are we having any trouble with what's going in them?
No, I don't, and I've not seen a single letter from Republic with a contamination fee.
Really?
That I know of. And so that's good. But now, we did a lot of legwork on the beginning, training and so forth. But they, in fact, they've used us as an example for other communities. But it goes back to applying for it, and we did take some away early on. So, but I really, the program's worked out well, and we were able to do it at a fraction of the cost, and that's the most important thing. We're still providing the service, but we're doing it, probably 30 cents on the dollar compared to what it was before. Reminder though that the fall art crawl is tomorrow, also 5:30 to 9. November the 11th, Veterans Day, city offices will be closed. We will have our Veterans Day parade starting at 11. They'll go from Flint down to the courthouse, and then they'll have a 20 to 30 minute ceremony there on the east side of the courthouse. November 12th is that Saturday is the downtown Christmas open house, and also I think that's the second Saturday as well. Shop local. November 24th and 25th. Hard to believe, but city offices will be closed for Thanksgiving. Just a reminder, on that Sunday, the 27th, Christmas parade and tree lighting. The parade lineup starts at 2 p.m. The parade starts at 4, and the tree lighting around 6 p.m. So we're just glad to see these annual events come back. Other business, we did have our first meeting of the homeless committee last Wednesday. We've got basically just a little over 20 people on that committee. It's made up of city employees, county employees, nonprofits, elected officials, downtown merchants, citizens, and our allied organizations. Several of those are on that as well. Through that committee, we kind of set our priorities and issues, and vagrancy, affordable housing, public housing, addiction, mental health, and location of facilities. So that's moving forward. We're going to address all those, and like I say, make sure that we're doing all we can to address the issues that we've seen, and discuss it with our merchants, discuss it with our citizens. But I'm, like I say, I was really impressed with the group that we had. I think we had the right people in the room. They have passion for Lincolnton, passion for Lincoln County, and a lot of them are already servicing the homeless population, so they're familiar with the people that we're dealing with. But we will meet monthly. Our goal is to have a plan for you, ready for you, hopefully at budget retreat.
And thank Christine for serving on
that. I think Christine would agree. It was a really good meeting. I think everybody came out of it.
You're right. Everybody on that committee is passionate about this city.
Yes.
So the folks on the committee are going to deal with some of the real issues that keep popping up under that vagrancy component, and I hope we'll look at what existing ordinances and laws we have in effect that, if appropriately enforced, might help mitigate some of the problems we're having.
Yeah.
That's what we got to do.
And like I say, we've got 4 or 5 things that it's not just one thing. I mean, we know we've got vagrancies, but there also are issues with people with mental health issues, addiction, affordable housing. Now we ran in that this week. It was a local couple, and they've hit hard times. So it's and there's not going to be a fix that's going to fix all of them. So we're going to have to look at each one individually. But I came out of that meeting, like feeling like we're heading in the right direction. I made a copy of a letter that I got from a former citizen, not a citizen, but someone who grew up in this community, lived in this community for a long time, and wanted to show his appreciation for our police department, Detective Probst. I sent that to the chief, and Chief, thank you for sending that on to your employees as well. But just like I say, it was one of those that this gentleman needed our help, and we were able to provide that and do it in a timely manner, and he was very thankful, and I just wanted to share that with y'all and just let you know he just appreciated the work that our police department did for him. Also, behind that are pictures. That is a new patio project. It's on the other side of Zay's, if you're going down the Court Square. And that, I have to say, you know, we've been talking about that for a couple years now. The tourism development, city staff, Daphne, Pam, Laura, who basically make up the tourism development, have done an excellent job. It turned out a lot better than what I thought it would be. But it is a great area for somebody to go, you know, drink coffee, spend the time reading a book. The outside furniture that they used is probably as close as, you know, you can get to being vandalized proof. It's heavy duty. Somebody's not going to be able to pick it up. It's bolted down. But it really, you can tell by those pictures, it really looks good. And that's just another example of tourism development. You know, those dollars come from people who stay in our hotels and motels. So those aren't dollars that are coming directly from our citizens. And that's just one project that they've been able to do across the city. But, you know, time and time again, DDA and tourism development are taking their funds and pouring it into our community. So it's just, like I say, it turned out to be great. I just wanted to share that with y'all. You see it now. They put a sign up that says the patio. So, but
Reggie, is Wi-Fi availability at that site?
No, that is something we can discuss with the Streetscape project. If we're going to do it, we'll do it through
Zay's and see.
Yeah. And we've even told Zay's, if you got somebody that's wanting to eat outside, just understand if it's open, they can. You know, so it really turned out well, and it took several years to get get everything that we needed to finish the project. I wanted to mention also our staff and the volunteers that were responsible for the Apple Festival. I've heard nothing but positive feedback from the people who visited. I think it was a great decision by the Safety Committee and the Apple Festival Committee about moving it to October. The issues we ran into were heat related when we had it in September, and we're not having those now. But as you know, tons and tons of hours go into that from our staff, and I'm just thankful that we have the people that we do in place. It's just a huge event and really not a large area. Also wanted to thank the people. We had two different outages, one that was planned by Duke Energy, one that was unplanned. The unplanned got fixed in about 30 minutes. And the plan, Duke actually had it fixed in a little over an hour. So, but I don't know if y'all got the text. If you were in that area, it actually showed a map. This is the one that happened the other day in the Pine Street Circuit. It showed you if you live in this area, you're going to be affected. And so that's another thing that the Tyler Technologies, that IMGIS is brought to us, the ability to show somebody, you know, if you live here, you might be without power for 2 or 3 hours. Instead of saying, you know, well, if you live in the city, you might be. And another thing, too, that I wanted to mention, because it's someone I've known about my whole life, is the retirement of Steve Littlejohn. When Steve was in high school or growing up, he always said he wanted to work for the city, and he wanted to work for the solid waste department. He got a job right out of high school in 1987, and he's been with us ever since. He's the type of employee, people don't realize years ago, if you had overage on your vacation, you lost it. So we would force him to take a vacation at the end of the year. But every afternoon he'd be down there, want to know what went on that day. We're going to be able to replace the position, but we're not going to be able to replace the employee. He has been a once in a lifetime. I'm glad to say he's not only a coworker of mine, he's also a friend. If you want to talk Lincolnton football, UNC basketball, or Dallas football, he is the man. But like I say, he will be missed. I'm pretty sure he will still be around. But if you see him out in the public, just thank him, because he has been an excellent employee. And we're just proud to say that we had the opportunity to work with him for, well, most of us. You know, he's been here 34. He's been here pretty much longer than everybody but Robert and Joe Metz, I think. So, but I just wanted to mention that because
I was one of his teachers in kindergarten.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I had the opportunity to run into him on the football field, and that wasn't pleasant. So. Any questions?
Before you go, ask what Marty said something a while ago about our city ordinances. You know, there's a lot of people out here that's working for this city that don't know what our ordinances are.
Well, and I think, too, some of ours, we do have some that are outdated, and I think that's something we went through the process. It would have been in 07 or 08, I think it was, when we went and redid and all the department heads went through. So we're ready to go through that again. And the good thing about that, when you do that, it educates your employees because they have to go through every one of them.
I think all the employees should know our city ordinances.
Yeah, I agree. It's especially in your department. It's our law, and it's a law that's put in by our city councils over the years, and some of them that this council has put in too.
Well, and I was thinking, we got it on littering. I think there's no loitering ordinance.
There is, but the higher courts are challenging some of those when it comes to homelessness.
Does that mean that we gotta wait and see what they're gonna do? Why can't we do something about it? It's on our books, let's do it.
It's like I say, it's according to what issue we're talking about and what ordinance, but
lottery, period.
But you think the committee will have some firm recommendations by March?
I basically told them, I said, I want something I can present to council at our budget retreat, which, is about the middle of March. We've already talked, Chief and I have already talked about some things that we can do before then to assist, and even the DDA, they're willing to assist us with some, maybe helping out with their merchants and so forth. So, like I say, after that meeting, I felt a lot better as far as moving forward.
I'm glad, because I'm feeling worse the more people I talk to. We have to be caring and compassionate, but we also have to protect our citizens from being accosted, people blocking doorways unless you give them money, people doing natural functions on court steps. On porch steps. They're just
backyard.
We really just and I know that's the minority of the homeless. It's percentage wise, it's probably 2 or 3%, but numerically, it's enough to be a major problem.
There's definitely a difference between vagrancy and homelessness.
Right.
I think that's the key you have to understand. That's what the committee said. We've got to address one this way and the other this way.
Right.
So.
I suggested something at the meeting, and Dana Perino said the exact same thing I did on the news the other day, so I'm going to share it. I really think that we all need to do something. Every town and every city has the same problem, but once we do it, we need to send it to our national, McHenry, and let every other community that is doing the same thing, let him know and let it go to Washington, because I think we can do some small things here, but I really think the answer is in Washington, whether they change the laws so you can do something about people and where they are, or we open a bunch of Dorothea Dix hospitals.
Well, and I can tell you, I was on the assessment board last week, and my role on that assessment board was to play the merchant who was dealing with a homeless issue. And I was on an assessment board 3 months ago, which one of the questions that was presented to the candidates were, how are you going to deal with the issue of homelessness in the community? So all of us, and that's one of the things that we've mentioned to the North Carolina League of Municipalities, we've also mentioned to our central COG, we need joint efforts, because it's going to take all of us going to Raleigh and all of us going to Washington saying, we need assistance from the courts. We need assistance from the federal and state government, because right now our hands are tied on half these issues. And, there's certain things we can do and certain things we can't. But I think our job right now is to find out what we can do and do it. Yeah.
Well, if we're given permission by a property owner that we have the police have the right to go remove them.
Yes, and that's what Sergeant Green has done the last 2 weeks. Has gone around and got those permissions. We're in the process of and we're going to pay for it ourselves. We're going to create a sign that's generic and universal for everybody, and that way they can put it on their property and gives us the right to remove those people. So,
but where
we cannot do that is in a public setting, unless it's a park. And the only reason we can do it in a park because we don't allow anybody in our parks after 10 o'clock. But a public bench is going to be a legal issue. But you're right, in a private setting, we can control that. And that's what we've tried to tell our merchants. You got to let us know so we can get rid of them.
And the vagrants know all those laws also.
Yeah, they do.
They know the law as well as the.
Last question. On June the 21st, there was a joint meeting scheduled between this council and the county commissioners to hear a report of a study on the reuse of our Lincoln County Courthouse on Main Street, which I think is probably the most important study that's been done in the last 10 years and will affect the future of this community for the next 2 decades. That meeting got canceled, and the report we paid for half of has never seen the light of day. And I heard the other day they are costing out implementation when we haven't even had a chance to see what it says. Can we at least get a copy of that report so we'll know what they're going to do to our beautiful city without our impact?
See, I'm not as nice as Richie. I think we should make them meet with us and let us know, because it's our responsibility too.
And what the county managers explained to me is that what they're doing right now, they're in the process of doing an RFQ to hire an architect or a firm to look at what the school government is presenting and give cost estimates to see if it's, I guess, feasible.
That's exactly where I am. That step should come after the commission and the council look at the report and talk about it and see what and they have total control. Don't get me wrong. I know we can't make the decision, but we got into this together, and we discussed it together, and we funded it together. And now they're costing out something we don't even know what it is. I couldn't give you a clue what's in that report unless they just incorporated some of the things we talked about in those meetings. And that disturbs me. We're half owners of that report and responsible for this beautiful downtown, and I'm concerned about what is going to happen if we don't have a chance to get involved in those discussions early on.
Well, what could we do about it anyhow?
What could we get a copy of the report?
I know that, but would we have any right to voice? I mean, to change anything? If we don't have.
It's their property, but we were supposed to be included in the discussion.
At that first
and
meeting,
all at once that stopped.
After the money was spent. After our money was spent, then it stopped. So, and I think the intent was positive, because they did have that meeting scheduled on the 21st.
Yeah, and that
report's been ready to present since June the 21st.
And that was not stopped by us.
And I think it's a public document. So maybe we just ought to do a freedom of information request, see if we can get a copy of half of that report that we paid for.
I've had conversations with Josh and David, but I'll just send an email and I'll CC y'all on it that we're just requesting a copy of the report.
And a status.
Yeah.
Of where it is.
Yeah. I think they'll tell us that they're in the process of choosing a firm to give them the cost.
About what?
What it's going to cost to.
I don't know what they're looking at.
They're looking at how much is it going to cost to upfit the existing courthouse to do a mixed use, and that's basically what it's going to end up being.
Well, and see, that's what all the discussions were. Mm-hmm. But we're just assuming that's what's in. Unless you've seen it, I hadn't seen anything.
But they're getting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
You can't design until you know what the use is going to be, and that's what I thought had discussed in the meetings. But you've got to know how to plan it, and before you can do a cost analysis.
And then we've got streetscape going on. We don't know what the courthouse is. I mean, everything's tied into everything.
The issue, because I think our ability to assist, really, to be honest with you, I think our ability to assist is more on the grounds. Mm-hmm. That they did receive $4.5 million from the state to go toward this project.
Yes.
But I think between the city and tourism development, we have the ability to take the grounds and match it up to our streetscape and come out with something really, really nice.
But you would think, being invited along that journey, to have a joint plan to use that courthouse to improve our downtown, that at some point we would be at least informed about what it looks like, so we could say, oh, that's great, which it may very well be. I have no clue, which is the problem.
Marty,
My
to go.
understanding was from Kelly that the initial report basically didn't provide them any information. They were sending it back to the school government to come back with a report that says this is what we recommend. But I have, like I said, that was when the meeting was canceled in June.
And to go a step further, once whatever their plan is, we're going to be the ones policing it, and it is our city, and the courtesy of letting us know what is going on would be appreciated.
Yeah, I would like to say,
As far as the report goes, it's not a courtesy. We are half owners of that report.
if there is a report, but I think that the thing to do is just send an email tomorrow and just request if there is a report, we'd like to see it before the meeting. So, yeah, we can, like I say, I'll do that first thing tomorrow morning.
Our citizens are clamoring to know, and I keep saying, well, the commission is going to get back to us, and then I found out, they're costing out something.
Well, it's the centerpiece of our downtown.
Yeah. And if we're going to do something with traffic flow around the courthouse, you know how long it takes DOT. We need to start those discussions as soon as possible.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Richard.
I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I make the motion that we go into closed session.
Motion by Roby, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Let's take about a 5-10 minute break and then convene in closed session.